Hi everyone, Anna is here. Welcome to the Money Date. I'm excited. It's that time of the week where we need to talk about how our finances are doing. And you guys know the three things that I like to remind you to check. This music is kind of a upbeat here. I am ready to go outside for my run. But before I do that, three things, right, that I want you to make sure that you've checked in for yourself. How much income have you earned so far this week? Where are your expenses? How much money did you spend? And how are you tracking, number three, for your financial goals? Are you saving as you said you were going to do? Are you doing the things that you said you were going to do? That's what really takes to make sure that you stay aligned with your goals. Hi, Rynell, good to have you here. Now, today I want to talk about getting ready for a tax season. I know it's a little bit earlier in the process of, because the deadline for filing your tax return is April 15th. But it doesn't mean that you can't get it done today. A lot of people actually get their taxes done earlier. And so I have some suggestions in terms of how you can get organized, because I know it can get overwhelming. The one thing that I actually do throughout the year, and I don't have any manila folders here on my desk, but I just have a real simple manila folder that I've, right at the top of it, the calendar year that I'm working for, right, in terms of collecting the documents. And as they come in throughout the year, and not so much really throughout the year, but kind of really at the beginning of the year and up until we file the tax return, every document that gets sent in the mail, or if I get them electronically, I'll download and print, because then all I take is then that folder and I give it to my accountant. All right, that's my kind of a hack and filing strategy. But let me talk a little bit about exactly what do you need. And I really just kind of want to talk through with you about, it's not that overwhelming unless you really do this to yourself in terms of saying, oh my God, I've got to work on collecting all of these documents, and I don't have time right now, and so forth. And then you end up postponing to file your tax return on time, and maybe you end up owing taxes. That creates even more stress. So no stressing about any of this, because it shouldn't be. Even though you might be owing some balance to the IRS, there's still a plan for you to work out to pay it. So give yourself a break, okay? So let's start to kind of mapping out what you actually need. So the very high-end stuff, identify all the necessary information. Are you going to have dependents, right? Gather their social security numbers, right? So who are those dependents? Kids, parents. Can't claim a dog or a cat. There has to be a real person with the social security number. And so that kind of reminds me that we are working on getting social security for Liam. So unfortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, he was born at the beginning of this year. So does not qualify for deductions until next year. But those are the kinds of things that you need to have information for. So the big question I think you need to ask yourself for this round of taxes, are you going to itemize or are you going to take a standard deduction? From there, it's sort of like a tree that kind of, resolves on its own. If you're going to itemize, you're going to have to gather more documents, okay? Because itemizing deductions means you take an additional write-offs, right, on your tax return versus taking a standard deduction where you get a specific number and that's what you go with. Now in 2018, we have the whole new tax law change. And so you've got to weigh in these numbers and see what makes the most sense. Now, the next thing is what you want to do. And remember, all IRS really wants to know and do is to confirm how much income you've made and collect their fair share of taxes. They do not want anything else from you. So don't overthink this. That's where you need to organize all the sources of income that you have, whether it's W-2, right? So if you get a paycheck at work, maybe you had projects that you were working on and received 1099 for, right? You've got to gather all of those documents. Hi, Robin. Hi, Tanya. Good to have you here. You've got to gather all of those documents so that you have sources. Because again, with IRS, the one who has the most proof wins. But as you know, copies of W-2s and 1099s get sent to the IRS. Now, what if you had investments and savings accounts? You should be receiving, or by now, you should have received in the mail, or you have those forms electronically. It's called a 1099 INT or 1099 DIV. Those are the forms that actually list how much money you've made in your savings account, how much money made in your investment accounts, and if you were receiving any dividends. So whether maybe you perhaps participated in tax loss harvesting at the end of last year because there was an opportunity with the stock market, going up and down, and you were able to sell some investments at a loss and so forth. So all of that stuff, if you're not doing your tax return, all of that stuff, hi Mackenzie, good to have you here, is what you need to gather. Now, the question becomes, are you doing your own tax return, or are you going to hire a tax professional to help you organize and get this done? Now, the answer is really depends on your own capacity and interest and time. Of whether you're going to do that on your own. I would suggest that there are solutions these days, all the way from doing it on your own using TurboTax or H&R Block Online, to going to actually to H&R Block and having somebody you can talk to, all the way to hiring a CPA or working with an enrolled agent or even a tax preparer to help you with those options. So you've got lots of choices. All you need to do is to gather these documents. So that's kind of the first step. Now, some of the questions I want you to think about as you're getting ready to prepare, right? Because it's either if you're working through TurboTax, they're going to be asked there, or if you're going to see a professional, they're going to be asking you these questions. So if you own a real estate, how much taxes have you paid? State and local taxes. Remember, the tax deductions, especially if you itemize it, are much different. And there's limitation as to what you can actually deduct. So personal property taxes for some states like Virginia, for example, if you own an auto, did you make any donations? Those are the things, those are the receipts, for itemizing purposes is what you need to have. So $250 or more, you need to have a receipt. You can't just dump clothes at the local, shelter and say, all right, I've donated and I made a donation. You need to have a record showing that it was a donation. Now, did you volunteer any time? Because you can deduct miles that you've driven to go somewhere to volunteer your time. So it's not just money that you give, it's the time that you give. What kind of medical expenses did you have? Perhaps you had a lot of out-of-pocket expenses this year that you need to gather all the receipts and organize. So this is a reminder. So I think a lot of folks forget to think about, all right, I've had quite a few medical expenses. Student loan interest deductions. Do you have debt that you pay an interest on? And particularly student loans, federal student loans, private student loans. You should be getting tax documents, right, from providers, Nelnet, and I'm blanking a couple, there's lots of them, right, that should be sending you, they're the loan servicing companies that should be sending you actual tax forms that shows that's how much interest you paid. And of course, investment management fees. If you're paying investment management fees not inside your retirement account, you should be, actually I take it back, that was one of the things that went away for 2018. So no more deductions of investment management fees for 2018, right? So collect all of this information. And I know that perhaps you have a question. That's why I think having a manila folder where you can drop everything in makes the most sense. Because then if you're handing this to the tax professional, they can help you sort this through. A lot of them also, my accountant earlier this month actually sent me a form to fill out that has questions that's prompting to say, has anything in your life changed? Maybe perhaps you moved or you had a baby like I did, that prompts to require gather different types of documents, okay? Let me know if you have any specific questions. If you need a referral to a tax professional, happy to help you with that. And I want to close with letting you know that a money win for the week. And those of you who are watching, thanks so much for coming on live. If this is a replay, let me know in the comments that you're watching this in replay. And don't forget to share your money win. A money win is a positive, gratifying moment in your week for the last 7 days. So what has it been? What have you done awesome that you're proud of? So mine for this week is actually feeling like Yuri and I now have a schedule around what Liam presents to us in terms of feeding him, putting him to naps, spending time with him. So I think we're starting to get in a groove of having a schedule where he watches him part of the night, I do. We figured out what time we need to go to bed, what time we have dinner, and so forth. So maybe I'm excited about this too early in the process, but it feels like $1 million win for the last week, especially on the mornings or nights when I'm up and wondering when can I get more sleep. So it's not a complaint. I'm actually very excited about that. So let me know what you feel like is $1 million win for the week has been for you. Now, before I close, share this out with your friends and family. I would appreciate it. And a funny quote I found says the following: I wish you a happy tax season. May the odds be in your favor. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.